Let me paint you a picture, because if I didn't live through this myself, I probably wouldn't believe it either. It's one of those stories where, from the outside, it just sounds like some petty neighbor drama. But let me tell you, when it's your land, your family, your peace of mind on the line, suddenly it feels like the whole world's out to test your patience and your nerve. So here's how it started. We just made this huge move out of the city, said goodbye to the non-stop grind of Toronto, hoping for a quieter, simpler life up north. It was 2017. My wife and I, we found this place, 4 acres of maple forest tucked away from the world. It was everything I'd dreamed about for years, you know? Peace, space to breathe, room for my kids to run wild without worrying about traffic or noise. The house itself wasn't anything fancy, but that land? Man, it felt like freedom. When we bought it, the original owner, Mrs. Carter, gave me this odd look and said, "Just keep an eye on the neighbor up there, Richardson. His driveway seems to wander closer every year." I kind of laughed it off. I'd just escaped a nightmare neighbor situation in Toronto, and I wasn't about to let that stress follow me out here. I figured, hey, how bad could it be? Well, you ever have one of those gut feelings you wish you'd listened to? Because not 2 months later, the rains hit, and that's when the mess started. The ground over at Richardson's was basically a swamp every time it rained. Instead of, I don't know, fixing the drainage on his property, he rents an excavator and goes full demolition derby right along my property line, digs a massive ditch, dumps the rocks and mud straight into our woods, and knocks down half a dozen old maple trees like they were nothing. I just stared, thinking, no way. This can't be real. At first, I tried to keep it cool. I mean, it's just a few trees, right? The forest is thick out here. But then I started thinking about that neighbor in Toronto and the endless legal headaches, the late-night rants, the lines drawn in the dirt. I knew I couldn't let this slide. So, I call up a land surveyor, an actual Ontario surveyor, the real deal. You know, those folks who treat property lines like gospel. And, sure enough, he comes out, pulls out the maps and those little metal stakes, and goes, "See this? Richardson's driveway is 12 feet onto your land for over 100 feet. No gray area here." I'll be honest, part of me felt vindicated, but another part just felt tired. You know what I mean? Like, why does it always have to be so damn complicated? But I sent the guy a registered letter, copy of the survey, as polite as I could manage, but clear. The whole thing. Waited. Nothing. Sent another letter. Didn't even pick it up this time. Maybe he thought, if I just ignore it, it'll all go away. If I had $1 for every person who's tried that. I didn't even bother trying to talk face to face. I'd learned that lesson already. Never try to reason with someone who thinks the world owes them a favor. Next step, real estate lawyer. They drafted a letter that must have rattled his mailbox because suddenly his own lawyer replied, admitted the encroachment, promised they'd fix it. Except, well, they didn't. 3 years passed. Seriously, 3. It became a running joke in my family. Every birthday, every Christmas, we'd look out the window and wonder, will this be the year Richardson cleans up his mess? Meanwhile, friends and neighbors kept dropping advice. Just fix it yourself and bill him. Sue for the trees. But I was tired. Life out here was supposed to be peaceful. And, honestly, we cut down trees all the time. This wasn't some manicured city lot. It was the wild north. Still, the principal ate at me. I figured, okay, let's play the long game. I'd heard from a mutual friend that Mrs. Richardson absolutely hated living in the forest. Couldn't stand the bugs, hated the mud, missed her morning lattes from town. And that water problem never got solved. Word on the street was she started looking for houses back in town. Sure enough, for years after the whole mess started, I see a big for sale sign on their front lawn. I didn't even wait, snapped a photo, called the listing agent on my lunch break. Listen, I don't know if you're aware, but your client's driveway is 100 feet over my property line. Surveyed, documented, lawyer confirmed. This sale isn't moving forward until that's fixed. You ever hear a realtor get caught flat-footed? It's a special kind of silence. But now the clock was ticking for Richardson. He couldn't deny it, couldn't sell, couldn't even pretend it wasn't real anymore. Within a week, trucks started rolling in, dump trucks, graders, landscaping crews. The driveway got dug up and hauled out load by load. The forest got put back together as best as a crew of sweaty guys and a backhoe can manage. Every day, my wife and I watched from the kitchen window, sipping coffee, wondering if maybe, just maybe, This was what closure looked like. Richardson called one afternoon, voice all pinched and sour, asking if it was good enough yet. Not quite, I said, maybe drawing it out a little, just because. Eventually, every last stone was gone, the old markers were back, and our woods started looking like home again. Sometimes, justice doesn't need to be flashy. It just needs to be relentless. But if you think that was the wildest thing that ever happened to me, wait till you hear about my family's cabin in Colorado. That place, it was sacred ground. My grandfather built it in the 50s, 3 acres of pine, nestled above the world. Every inch of it soaked with memory. My first trout, campfire stories, winters so cold the pipes would freeze solid, and we'd have to melt snow for coffee. After he passed, the cabin became my sanctuary. So you can imagine my shock when I rolled up one Friday night, just looking forward to some peace and quiet, and found a huge orange notice taped to the door. Demolition required within 47 hours or legal action will be taken. Stamped official by something called the Pine Valley Homeowners Association, signed by Barbara Harding. Never heard of her. Never heard of Pine Valley HOA. My family's land wasn't part of any new development. We'd been here since before the road was paved. I tried calling the number, voicemail. No call back. I tore the notice off and tried to settle down, but dinner tasted like sawdust. Around 8 p.m., there's this furious banging on the door. I open it to find a woman with perfect hair, expensive sunglasses on her head, looking at me like I'm something she stepped in. You need to stop whatever you're doing. This structure violates community standards and will be demolished. You have until Sunday at noon. She tosses a thick packet at me and spins on her heel. SUV idling at the end of my drive. That night, I barely slept. You ever just sit there in the dark, questioning everything you thought you knew? I spent hours on my phone, spotty service, but enough to dig up some property law. Everything I read confirmed it. Pre-existing properties can't be forced into an HOA after the fact. My grandfather's old shoebox of records came in handy. Original deed, tax receipts going back decades, faded black and white photos of the cabin being built. I even found the survey markers, still tucked away in the brush, showing exactly where our land ended and the new developments began. I called my lawyer buddy, who just laughed. This happens more than you'd think. It's bluff and intimidation. Get your papers ready, and I'll send a cease and desist. Don't let them scare you. Sunday morning comes, and it's like a circus. Barbara shows up with a bulldozer, 2 polo shirt board members, acting like it's her own private demolition derby. I meet them outside, papers in hand, and say, as calmly as I can, before you do anything, you'll want to read these. She barely glances at me, tells the bulldozer to get ready. I step in front and say, or maybe we can call the sheriff and report trespassing and attempted destruction of property. That finally gets through. One of her guys flips through the folder, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. The bulldozer operator flat out refuses to move. No paperwork, no work. Sorry. Barbara's face? I swear it matched her nail polish. They slink off, but that wasn't the end. Over the next week, I get fake citations, improper trash disposal, excessive noise, even claims I was running a business out of the cabin. Each time, I send everything to my lawyer, who builds a paper trail thicker than Barbara's bylaws. Then it gets ugly. One night, eyesore gets spray painted across the front door. The security cameras catch Barbara herself, creeping around after midnight like a raccoon with a grudge. That was the final straw. I filed a restraining order, sued Barbara and the HOA for harassment, vandalism, attempted destruction of property. The evidence was overwhelming. Suddenly, their lawyer was falling over himself to settle. Barbara had a reputation for this, pushing boundaries, ignoring lines. This time, it cost her. She was kicked off the board, made to do community service, and the HOA sent me a formal apology, plus enough cash to fix the door, upgrade the cabin with solar panels and a new fence, and make sure no one ever tried this stunt again. 6 months later, I'm at the cabin fixing a leaky gutter when a young couple walks up the drive, looking confused. We're house hunting in Pine Valley. Realtor said your place is part of the HOA. I just smile and hand them a copy of the survey. Nope, not even close. Want to hear a story? They ended up buying outside the HOA lines. Sometimes, the best revenge is just the truth. So, look, whether you're fighting off an entitled neighbor, a power-drunk HOA president, or just some jerk who thinks your boundaries are up for grabs, you can't back down. You have to know where you stand. The thing is, nobody can take what's rightfully yours if you've got the grit to stand your ground. No matter how many letters they send, how many bulldozers they rent, or how official their signature looks. And if you've been through something like this, if you've had to fight for your home, your family, your peace of mind, tell your story. Drop it in the comments. Let folks know where you're watching from. Share what justice looks like in your neck of the woods. At the end of the day, the only way these people win is if we let them. So here's to standing up, holding the line, and making sure the next generation never has to wonder if their land or their legacy is safe. Because no matter how small you feel in the moment, if you've got the truth on your side, you've already won. And yeah, sometimes the best revenge is just living well, with your boundaries clear and your story told. So what do you think? Right? Wrong? Justice served or overkill? Sound off below. Let's hear how you'd have handled it.